Let's make for that mansion on a tour through the iconic Spencer estate from Resident Evil as we uncover its real-world objects, inspirations, and Easter eggs like how someone managed to hide a Pokémon in the Resident Evil Remake. For this series, I've teamed up with Welsh, who's kindly shared his amazing observations made over the years. So grab all your keys, gems, and cranks. It's time for Secrets from the Mansion. To find the hidden Pokémon, take a look at the researcher's letter found in the X-ray room of the Resident Evil Remake. It's the tragic final message from John to his dearest Ada. But if you look at the graphic as it appears in the game files, you'll see what looks like a Pikachu hidden on the stamp. The back of the envelope matches what's shown in-game. However, the front side with its Pokémon mascot isn't shown, much to the relief of Capcom's lawyers, I'm sure. But it's there in the game data. As a side note, I'm not sure what the Japanese says, but the bottom reads, a shockwave, which is also written on the battery of Jill's stun gun. This isn't the first time there was almost a Pikachu in the Spencer Mansion either. Shimogama Ryoji worked on the first two Resident Evil games, and is known for designing the Licker, the Hunter texture, and references to him can be seen around Raccoon City. He was also said to be a big fan of Pikachu. So much so that according to personal interviews, he tried to sneak a Pikachu statue onto a shelf in the Spencer Mansion. Sadly for him, it was found by Capcom and removed before release. Shimogama's love of the electric mouse continued during the development of RE2, when, rumor has it, he once even styled his hair to look like a Pikachu. Shimogama left Capcom after Resident Evil 2, but someone was finally able to sneak a Pikachu into the mansion. It's likely the stamp was an existing graphic that was made for an earlier Resident Evil game and went unused until the release of Remake, eventually making one Pikachu fan's dreams come true. Despite not being at Capcom during Remake's development, Shimogama is featured in a Blink and You'll Miss It Easter egg with some other big names of Biohazard staff. In the elevator to the helipad, check out the floor guide and you'll see Shimogama Room. Oishi is Oishi Isao, who you can thank for designing our beloved characters of Resident Evil 1 and 2. Kamiya Hideki, the legendary director of RE2, among other classic titles, is here as well. And I think Yamada is Yamada Masaaki, a planner for RE1 and director of the cancelled version of RE3 that would have seen Hunk on a boat. Aoyama is Aoyama Kazuhiro, the director of RE3, who worked on the first two RE games as well, and helped bring us Hunk. Hamano Room is surely named after Hamano Miho, who really has a room in RE3, with the boutique having a Mode Ohim sign outside, Ohim being her name spelled backwards. Her initials are also here on the wall, and on a bag. And you know what, I missed it in my RE3 video, but the bag also says 510, which is another reference to background creator Goto Junko. I'm pretty sure the wall says Imahori, which is background creator Imahori Hiroyuki. And I wasn't sure until I could see a higher res version of the boutique. But 373 is in fact Minami Koichi, because KO1 is written underneath, which can be read in Japanese as Koichi. Back to the Spencer estate, I think Nishida is Nishida Chie, a graphic artist who worked on Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3. And seeing them get some recognition for building this world we all love just warms my heart. Besides the letter with the Pikachu stamp, there's another one hiding secrets before the game even begins. The graphic used for the difficulty select screen has text at the bottom, too blurry to read in-game, but looking at the file, it contains some interesting details about how Umbrella operates. The first paragraph is basically just a legal disclaimer from Umbrella Pharmaceuticals, but the second paragraph shares what appears to be Umbrella's computer network policy, which is unorthodox, to say the least. It reads, "Please also note that Umbrella Pharmaceuticals is at all times to keep its network full of viruses. You should, however, scan this email and any attachments to it for any viruses. Umbrella will not be held responsible for any viruses which may be transmitted upon receipt of this email, or the opening of any attachments thereto." Well, that's one way to achieve global saturation, by keeping their networks full of viruses, intentionally. Or maybe it's one way Umbrella keeps tabs on its employees. This graphic doubles as the orders fax, and you can read Wesker's orders, everything down to Umbrella's phone number and extension number. So confirmed canon fax and phone number? Although a different extension number is listed in another file. Whose could it be? Brandon Bailey? You tell me. It's not just letters you can read, there are signs everywhere. There's even a hidden message on the sign outside of the Tyrant room. Written under level 4, it looks like Muzuka Sine, But put the two words together and it's the Japanese word muzukashii ne, which means something like, it's difficult, isn't it? Perhaps a warning for the upcoming battle, or a developer trying to think of something to write in another language. Which is the exact same problem whoever had to put text on the serum had, and whose ramblings are now immortalized in HD. Here's a translation if you missed my other videos about it. Take a look at the door and you'll see at least 2 of the signs are based on real-world images. Enter the Tyrant room and you'll see Wesker's computer is running the program Softimage, which was used to make the game. Am I seeing S.T.A.R.S, or is that Nemesis? And maybe Alexia? You can see the Softimage logo inside the item box, as well as one for Microsoft. Interesting to note, in the item box, the book on the right side was made for the original RE1 and appears in Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3. You can get a good view of it outside of the City Hall in 3. It's in the room with the fish tank in Remake 2, but the text is illegible. If you've played Outbreak, you might see something familiar in the Tyrant room too. The creatures in the tank use the same texture as the Nyx enemy from Outbreak File 2. Is Nyx the unspeakably ugly creature inside? There's a lot of tech in here, and some of it is based on Rode and Schwartz equipment, like this box sitting right here. The elevator to the underground uses this machine, and you can even see the numbers are the same. Rode and Schwartz is also apparently used in Resident Evil 4, so why not take a look if you aren't too busy playing bingo. There's an unused door to the chemical room that's only in the HD remaster. The signs on it are reused from RE3. On the large iron door, which I think leads to the helipad, you can see this sign which Welsh noticed on a train one day while out for a walk. You know, as you do. Somehow. You can see it around the lab too, like on the elevator doors here. On the topic of signs, there's one reused from RE3 that made me laugh out loud now that we can finally read it. Seen by the lab entrance, it says, "The probability of someone watching you is proportional to the stupidity of your actions."
Chris? Stop it.
The will not open portion of the sign is reused from the original RE1. It can also be seen on the heliport door. Look closely and you'll see an RPD sign on the fire extinguisher. You'll also find it in Resident Evil 2 and 3. It's really hard to see, but I think there's a bucket here. It's also in the cabin, and you might recognize the texture on it from RE3. The text is apparently an Easter egg to a developer, but I couldn't figure it out. Let me know in the comments if you know who it may be. The danger sign from RE3 appears all over the estate. If you've played Survivor, you might have seen this white sign in the hospital. Well, it makes a return in the Resident Evil 1 remake. It's also been in Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 in many places. If you actually read the white sign, you can see it's from Canada. Another Canadian sign can be seen here. Which leads us to international inspirations. To bring the mansion to life, the developers looked outside of Japan for inspiration. Some of the posters in the residence are from the American fashion company's Venus swimwear catalog. This one has been recolored and reversed, twice. But they can also be seen in the employee room where the famed Keeper's Diary can be found. You've likely already seen the London subway map in the cabin, but the plaque on this statue appears to be based on one seen in a photograph taken in London. The architecture in the background leading to the small graveyard is inspired by the London Royal Academy of Arts. Maybe inspired isn't the right word here. We can find more real-world objects if we look across the channel to France, like this bottle of French cognac which can be seen on the dresser. And if you aren't thirsty, how about grabbing a sandwich from the trap room, which is decorated with paintings from France's famed Loire Valley. Also from the same region, we can see the painting that was used in the original RE1's gallery was later reused on the cover of the red books in Remake. It was also used on the white one. The picture across the spines of the book is a modified version of this painting. There are numerous influences on the Spencer Mansion's aesthetic, which can be traced back to a trip to Spain while researching for Hideki Kamiya's version of Resident Evil 4, which later became a different game altogether, Devil May Cry. There's even a map of Barcelona behind the computer here. It's also in the residence rolled up against the desk. Take a look around and you might be able to find more. The painting on the ceiling of the long trap room was taken from Madrid Palace, making this a death trap fit for royalty. The painting in the tea room where Kenneth met his unfortunate fate can be seen in Casa Mila in Barcelona. If you're looking to make your very own Spencer Mansion dining room replica, you'll need the painting hiding the shield key. Well, it appears to be an amalgamation of a photograph and some paintings. The background was probably taken from this real location in Barcelona, and the two fighters resemble the men from these two other paintings. The figure on the left appears to be this woman in green. Your own replica would also need the tapestries here on the wall, which are made from this pattern, which can be found in a book called Polychrome Ornament. The wallpaper is also from the same book. Speaking of wallpaper, the design in the hall where you find Richard uses this floral pattern, because nothing screams horror like Grandma's doilies. The vase seen on the floor right here was taken from Casa Batlló in Barcelona. The white one is based on a Chinese design. The painting on the floor between them is a recolored version of one used in the original Resident Evil. On the pedestal in the room with the suits of armor, it looks like the plaque says Barcelona and was taken from a real-life location in Spain. While a lot of inspirations were brought back from Spain for use in what became Devil May Cry, there's at least one thing that was used in both games. The Sargasso enemy is also poor Jessica Trevor's skull. If only they gave Lisa a PS2. There are references from the Middle Ages too. The cover of the botany book is actually titled El Dorado of the Fort of a Book. El Dorado being the mythical gold city located somewhere in the Americas. The theme continues when you look at the pattern on the cylinders, which appears to be based on Mesoamerican art. On top of the cylinder, you can see this Aztec sunstone. It's repeated when you look at the death masks where it's used as an underlay, and I think subconsciously conjures up a supernatural feeling. Some of the pictures around the estate are pictures from the works of Conrad Gesner, published in the 1500s. The keeper, who wrote the Itchy Tasty Note, was likely looking at this too. And I never noticed this before, but I love how the pills are spilled all over the table here. It paints a disturbing picture in my head of the desperation and frustration of being infected with the virus, and another reminder of the human side of this tragedy. Some of the other anatomical drawings seen around the estate are based on these, which amazingly Welsh was somehow able to recognize. Of course, not all inspirations are from overseas, and there are some elements taken straight from Japan. Well, more like product synergy in this one case. The watches worn by S.T.A.R.S members are real products made by GSX. We already looked at Rebecca's watch in my Dino Crisis video, but we've got one for Chris, Wesker, Barry, and Jill. Which one would you choose? The picture of Barry's family is taken in front of what appears to be a Japanese temple. Maybe the Burtons took a trip to Japan where Moira picked up her katana. If anyone knows which temple this is, please let me know. The pattern on the vase in the dining room appears to be based on a Japanese one. The outline of the Cerberus seen in the slideshow is the same one on the box of the Biohazard Zero pre-order bonus available in Japan, which I've got right here, and I'm probably never gonna build. These reports would return in the Japan-only Biohazard Patchy Slot game. In the room with the projector, there's also an unused camera angle. You might recognize the image on screen from RE3 or Dino Crisis. And finally, if you've ever wondered what's written on the V-Jolt bottles in the original RE1 and reused in the remake, let's finish by reading that special message. Samada, I have a lion heart. You are a pretty, pretty girl. Bye, sweetie honey. Tondo is my pretty sister. If you like this video but find yourself shouting, "No! Don't go!" let us know if you'd like to see a part 2. It was such a treat seeing some of the real-life inspirations used to build the mansion, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. This video wouldn't have been possible without Welsh, and he wanted to dedicate it to Leo Kasai, so this one's for you, Leo. Thanks for watching, and a huge thank you to my amazing Patreon supporters. Check it out if you'd like to help out too. See you in the next one, and remember, don't open any emails from Umbrella.